Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 25 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have 5 sections that we'll get into: a general overview of the NBA this week, and our usual highlight, lowlight, random stat, and game of the week. Let's go to our content for the week. We learned on Wednesday of another coaching change. Charlotte Hornets head coach Steve Clifford is resigning at the conclusion of this season, and he will transition into the front office. Clifford coached the Hornets from 2013 to 18, coached in Orlando from 2018 to 21, took a year off, and then rejoined Charlotte in 2022. It will be a total of 7 years in the Queen City. Clifford is 338 and 459 in his head coaching career. Yikes. Multiple assistant coaches around the NBA are expected to be in the mix for Charlotte's head coaching vacancy, including Boston's Charles Lee, Sacramento's Jordi Fernandez, Denver's David Edelman, and Phoenix's Kevin Young. Bronny James, the son of LeBron James, announced on Friday that he is declaring for the 2024 NBA Draft while maintaining college eligibility and entering the transfer portal. A lot of stuff going on there. James averaged 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists at USC this season. He had a cardiac arrest episode and a procedure to fix a congenital heart defect last summer, so maybe that affected him. Before being good to go for the draft, though, James has to be evaluated by the NBA's Fitness to Play panel. According to NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski, if James stays in college, Duquesne is reportedly a top option. Finally, New York Knicks forward Julius Randle will have season-ending shoulder surgery. He dislocated his shoulder on January 27th, but doctors said continued instability on his shoulder has made it unsafe to play again this season. Randle was an all-star this season, and he averaged 24 points, about 9 rebounds, and 5 assists per game in 46 appearances. We'll have to see how the Knicks perform without Randle as the playoffs draw closer. This episode is entitled Ready for Takeoff. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? Let's go to our highlight, the Minnesota Timberwolves. As a team that's had a frustrating history of underachieving, the Minnesota Timberwolves are ready to enter the playoffs as a favorite. Minnesota is 54-24 and tied with Denver for the top seed in the West. Although the Timberwolves have tough competition in their conference, they have the firepower to make things competitive. Anthony Edwards is not only their superstar, but a candidate to become the face of the NBA one day. Edwards is averaging about 26 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5.1 assists, and 1.3 steals per night. Karl Anthony Towns, who was the de facto franchise player before Edwards came along, is good for 22.1 points, about 8.5 rebounds, and a career-high 42.3% from downtown. When he's healthy. Remember, Towns has a torn meniscus. Minnesota is hoping he can return in the coming weeks. The Timberwolves boast a lineup of 3-time Defensive Player of the Year winner Rudy Gobert, along with Mike Conley and Jaden McDaniels. Naz Reid is a solid option off the bench. Overall, this isn't a team to take lightly come playoff time. There's a reason they're battling with Denver for the top Western seed. It's time for Minnesota to unlock their potential. Their next game is on Tuesday, April 9th at 8 o'clock. They will host the Washington Wizards. Let's go to our low light, the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are in an interesting situation. They're kind of a highlight and lowlight simultaneously. The Knicks are 46-32 and tied for third in the East with Orlando. As we discussed in the opener, Julius Randle is out for the remainder of the season with a shoulder issue, and New York is being cautious with their relatively new forward OG Anunoby, who they acquired at the trade deadline from Toronto. Anunoby has been sidelined since late January after receiving elbow surgery. The Knicks are 15-2 with Anunoby in the lineup. However, there are other bright spots on the squad. Jalen Brunson is averaging 28.2 points, about 3.5 rebounds, and 6.7 assists per game. He also shoots 39.4% from downtown. Bojan Bogdanovic, Josh Hart, and Dante DiVincenzo are valuable role players that make the Knicks a playoff contender. In New York's comeback against Sacramento on Thursday, Hart nearly had a 31-point triple-double, and DiVincenzo had 21 points. If Randle and Anunoby were in the lineup, this team is an easy pick to make the second round at minimum, maybe the conference finals. But if the playoffs started today, they would host Cleveland in the first round. We'll have to wait and see. Their next game is on Tuesday, April 9th at 8 o'clock. They will be in Chicago to face the Bulls, a team the Knicks are seeing 3 times in 10 days. Let's head over to our random stat. The Milwaukee Bucks have had an interesting few days this past week. On Tuesday, they lost by 4 in Washington. On Wednesday, they lost by 10 to Memphis. On Friday, they lost by 6 to Toronto. The latter two were Milwaukee home games. Does anything in particular stick out about those 3 teams? If you said that they are lottery teams, you are correct. The Bucks, the second seed in the Eastern Conference, lost 3 in a row to the NBA's bottom feeders. The Wizards are bad. The Grizzlies are a G League team at this point in the season, and the Raptors snapped their 15-game losing streak by winning their game in Milwaukee. Just remember, the Bucks thought it was a good idea to fire head coach Adrian Griffin, who had a 30-13 record at the time, midway through the season to hire Doc Rivers of all people. Having Damian Lillard around is nice, but trading Drew Holiday to the Eastern Conference's rulers, the Boston Celtics, might not have been a smart idea. Holiday was actually traded from Milwaukee to Portland, and Portland shipped him to Boston, but you get the idea. Washington, Memphis, and Toronto are all eliminated from the postseason. As the top seed last season, Milwaukee was bounced in the first round to the 8th seed Miami Heat. Let's see what Doc Rivers cooks up in the final weeks of the Bucks season. Finally, let's go to Game of the Week. For this week's Game of the Week, we have a matchup that happens twice in 1 week. The LA Clippers versus Phoenix Suns. These two will face off on Tuesday, April 9th at 10 o'clock in Phoenix, and on Wednesday, April 10th at 10:30 in LA. This is significant because there's a chance this is a first-round matchup. LA has the 4th Western seed for now, but 5 teams are fighting to go as high as the 5th seed, which Dallas currently has. This includes Phoenix. Although we've mentioned it for the last few episodes, the Rockets weren't able to make the play-in tournament. It'll be a heated battle to see how those bottom playoff seeds pan out. These Clippers-Suns games will definitely have a playoff atmosphere to them. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and James Harden versus Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. For the Suns' home game, I'll take the Suns 120-115. For the Clippers' home game, give me the Clippers 112-108. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both Twitter and Instagram. My personal Twitter is @LarryDiehlman18, and my personal Instagram is @Mr_sports18. They're also in the description on SoundCloud. Today was the final regular season episode of Diehlman at Halftime. So since we're getting to the playoffs, let me kind of break down what's happening. So this coming week and the following week will be special editions of Diehlman at Halftime. Next week, we will reveal my playoff bracket, and then the following week, we're going to take a look at the power rankings predictions I did in the very first episode, see how good or bad I did in those predictions. And then we will go back to normal episodes, playoff edition. So things are about to get hectic on the podcast. Make sure you follow all the episodes. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at Halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.